I'm Al Grigg from Red Riders and Palms, and I play guitar in Straight Arrows as well. Oh, I sound like a bit of an arsehole saying I wrote the classic song Ordinary. But if you think it's a classic, then I'm happy to call it a classic.
Falling asleep on the street as the night turns day. Chasing the beastly feet down an alleyway. Nothing I do ever seems to go my way. Everything I do is ordinary.
I think I must have written it around 2007 because Adrian was still in the band. We did an early demo of it. It's on a record called Drown in Color. The second album was really tough because Red Riders went from being a band that was like me and Adrian was the main songwriters, done like two EPs and an album. And then Adrian left the band. It was just on me to kind of write this whole album. And also Adrian, beyond just being a really great songwriter in his own right, was a really amazing like arranger of songs and would always be able to add a lot of great stuff to my songs and really elevate them. So I guess it was like a really big kind of learning curve for me trying to write a whole, like the first time I had to write a whole album worth of songs on my own and then be a bit more of a leader, I guess, when it came to like arranging and kind of having those other creative ideas just beyond the chords and the melody and the lyrics and things. I wrote the bones of this song on my own.
Bumming through the streets of a parents' town and talking shit to anyone that's still around. Down on the riverside, we were so great. Nothing that we did was ordinary.
Various people kind of helped out and had input as well in that in the writing process. Tom Wallace, who was the drummer in Red Riders at the time. Matt Chapman, who was playing bass in Red Riders at the time. Brad Heald, who was playing guitar in Red Rise at the time. And then, of course, like the producer, Woody Anderson, had a lot of input into some of the more atmospheric in the production. And then I think also Adrian Deutsch, who is the original guitar player and songwriter in Red Riders when we started the band. And I'm pretty sure he had some input in it as well. I wrote the song like when I was living in this share house in Newtown, and I lived in this like tiny room where like I had a double bed in there, but it took up like 3/4 of the size of the room. So I'd always be like sitting on the end of the bed, sort of in between like the little desk I had and the bed and like strumming away. And it's like a very real song that takes place in real space. I went through this really weird habit. I mean, when I was in my 20s of falling asleep 50 meters from my front door, 100 meters from my front door, and coming home from a big night out, 3 a.m. Oh, I just need to like sit down for a second, and I'd fall asleep. And there was this one time I was hanging out with a friend and we fell asleep on the brick fences out the front of a sort of like 1960s apartment buildings, whatever. And we sort of fell asleep. And then I woke up in the morning and the friend was gone. And I kind of was like, oh my God, I can't believe they just like left me here and like left. And I messaged them and was like, I can't believe you just like left me to like sleep and you just like, bailed or whatever. And they're like, oh, I dropped you off in a cab and I like went home. It was just like you were on your own. So I sort of was honestly so just like, yeah, a very heavy night, I guess, of drinking where I'd imagine that someone else was with me and we fell asleep on. So, the first verse is sort of about that experience. But then I guess overall, then the second verse is kind of more about like very specifically a friend of mine who goes by the name of Shag or Tom McMullen. We both grew up in like the suburbs, and I guess in our suburb we both felt like we were like sort of almost like big fish in like the little pond, and we destined to go off and do amazing things, and we sort of the outsiders in this suburb where we grew up, but we kind of felt like we were amazing or whatever. And then you move to the city, and then it's like everyone in the city is the exact same person that also like has moved out of their suburb to live in the inner city and try to do something creative because they also feel like they're the special persons. The delusions of youth. When we're young, nothing we did was ordinary and we felt amazing. And then now we're like in our 20s and we just feel kind of like run of the mill. The joy of playing that song is people's enjoyment of it. and seeing people really like sing along or kind of, I guess when we were seeing, you know, playing it again in a kind of more like reunion sort of way, I think, you know, seeing people sort of really being like, you know, almost like that kind of nostalgic thing, I think that's made it really fun. And yeah, I think, and probably that's probably tied into as well why I really like love that song and why I think it's probably up there as my favorite Red Rider song.